Hello. So this is going to be the starter video for my interactive media class. But it will also, if you're just came across this, it will show you how to kind of set up an environment to do HTML and CSS. And that's what I'll be covering on this is like how to get started, basic HTML, probably part 2, basic CSS. So so I've already kind of skipped through the install part, but you want to make sure that you have Visual Studio Code installed. Visual Studio Code. So this website, you want to have this installed. It will probably check and guess which computer you're on, but you can always, if it's wrong, you can always choose a different one. So Visual Studio Code. The other one is GitHub Desktop. GitHub Desktop is what we're going to use to run Git commands. I'll get into Git in a little bit longer, but it allows you to have your main server, all your code up there, which we're using GitHub for, and have a copy of it on your computer so you can work on your computer and push those files up. And in a normal development environment, a lot of different people will have copies of that code, and they'll be pushing it up to github.com or some other Git repository. And it's really good at figuring out what changes it needs to merge together. And if it can't do it, it gives you nice messages on what you need to do. So anyway, GitHub Desktop, which when you install it, it will look like this. And then let's see, what else? Visual Studio Code, GitHub Desktop. And then you need to go to github.com. So here's my main page. Yours will look a little different because I made a fancy file. But you are going to want to make a repository, and the name of it is super, super important. So if you look at my page, I have this username. It also shows up in my URL. And I also have this display name. This display name is not what we want. We want the actual username. So I would just copy it. You don't want the slash, but just copy the username just so you know that you're using the right one. And you're going to want to make a new repository. There's a green button. Oh, it's blue now. Okay. So you're going to click new. Mine already exists, but I'll show you what it would look like. It will be alanareese.github.io. That is exactly what you want it to look like, except not my name, your name, but it has to be your username.github.io. Super important. If you do this, your life is going to be great. It defaults to public. That is what you want. Yeah, you could add a README, and then don't worry about the rest, and then click create. So I'm going to back out of this since I already have that. So here's my GitHub IO. I'm going to click on the link. You will, after you create it, it will give you a whole page. But the thing that you actually don't need to do anything at this point, because as long as GitHub Desktop is connected to your GitHub account, which it should be if you installed it after you made an account, then you should be able to clone your repository. Just to make sure, if you don't have them connected, you can go to settings and you can go to accounts and you can set it up here. So it will connect your account here. All right, so here we are. We're in GitHub Desktop, which I like to call the purple app. We are using this app because it is it's a more visual tool. Most or a lot of developers use the command line. So they use like a Unix command line. They type in commands instead. So if I went to this website, I could say, what's the status? Except I can't type. They could check it in here. They could push it up to github.com. I'm not going to go over Unix till later. So we're using this instead of having to type in commands. But they all do the same thing and they can work in tandem. So let's clone your repository from the internet. So I'm going to click clone. One more quick thing. If you don't see this get started page, like maybe you're already using GitHub, you can go up to file and say clone repository. They do exactly the same thing. So you're going to want to find it. I have a lot of repositories, so I'm just going to make my life easier. And you can tell that I've done a lot of weird demos for class because I have all these weird names. GitHub.io. Let's see. There it is. Okay, so this is the repository that you just made. And then before you click clone, let's make sure that it's where you want it. So in my main directory, I'll show you my computer a little bit. It's a mess. But so if I click on this folder name, this is on a Mac, I can see that in users in Alana, I made a folder called sites. A lot of students like to have their folders on their desktop. So you could do that. You could click on desktop and say select, and that would clone it here. I'm going to just put it on sites because that's where I like it. I'm going to select sites, and then it's going to decide what the folder name should be. You don't have to rename that. And then I'm going to click, see, this is the name of the folder it's going to create. I'm going to click clone, and that will bring all my files from GitHub down to my computer. And also it's making a connection between my computer and GitHub. So now I have this page. It says no local changes. You should see open this repository in your external editor. If you don't see open in Visual Studio Code, you can go to preferences and choose Visual Studio Code instead. So if you don't see Visual Studio Code, that is where that is. And you can always use this link to get back to GitHub to see where this repository is on GitHub. So as you can see up here, it says current repository alanareese.github.io. If I had other ones in here, I could click on this and it would show up in the list. All right, enough of that. So let's go to Visual Studio Code. So if you've installed Visual Studio Code, you should see this screen. This is just a welcome file. It might look like that as well. This little thing will, sorry for the dog, will open and close the file explorer. So this is just a file. It looks pretty. Go ahead and close it. And if you see this empty screen now, let's open up the file explorer so you can see what's going on. And then I want you to go up to File and say Add Folder to Workspace. And then I want you to go find where you put your repository. So mine is in Sites. You may have put yours in your desktop. So Alana Reese, I have so much junk in here. I should really clean it up. Famous last words. I gotta get my video out of my way. What just happened? Okay. And then I'm gonna click on Add. And what that's gonna do is just gonna add my workspace. It's gonna create this little workspace with all my files in it. And then while we're at it, let's just save this workspace. So I'm gonna right click on it. I can't remember how to. I'm going to go up to File, and I'm going to say Save Workspace. Oh, maybe I can't save it till I have stuff. Okay, let's make some stuff. So in here, the very first file that we want to make is index.html. So a couple ways you can do that. With this selected, you can click on the New File icon, or you can just right-click and say New File. Or you can say Command N, or you can say File, New Text File. Let's just click on the icon. And now it's got a little cursor. I'm going to say index.html. And then you can hit Enter or Return, and that will create a file. Let's see, can we name it? Nope, not yet. All right, we'll just keep going. So here is our file. If I was to say hello world and hit save, if I went to a browser now, I'm going to open a new browser, and I went to that folder and I opened that file. So I'm going to say File, Open File, and I went to that folder. I could open this index.html file and it would say hello world with typo. But we're going to do this a little bit easier. So close that up. Let's go back to Visual Studio Code. Hello world. So we are going to set up a thing called live server. It will let us click a little button on the bottom. See where this says go live. It'll make it so that when we click this button, it'll just open a browser. And then the cool part is that it'll just refresh it every time we make a change. And we won't have to like refresh the browser, reopen the file. It'll just be in the background and we can just switch back and forth. So in order to do that, we want to go to extensions, which is this 3 boxes with a little 4th box floating off in the sky. If you click on it, I want you to search for live server. And then this one, which was written by Ritwick Day, is the one I want you to install. So instead of uninstall, it will say install. And when you have it installed, you will then see this go live. I might as well just uninstall it to show you. Oh, my go live didn't go away. Well, anyway, I'll install it. Okay, so now that we're in extensions, we want to go back to file. We just go up to the file explorer, click on the icon, it'll switch back to our files. Cool. So now if we click on index.html and we click on go live, it will automatically open a browser and it'll open it to Hello World. Now, I want you to use Google Chrome. So if yours did not open in Google Chrome, 1, make sure you have it installed on your computer. And 2, let's go back to Visual Studio Code. Let's go to settings. Let's go to, let's see, turn on settings, sync. Let's go to settings. Text editor, application. Ooh. Hold, please. I'm gonna see where I need to go. Cool. I found it. And I found it by literally searching, how do I find blah, 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 blah. How do I change my browser? So it's actually in the live server config. So let's go back. I'm using Command Tab to change to different apps. And then Shift Tab, we'll go back. Okay, so here I am. I was in the File Explorer. I'm going to go back to Extensions. Live Server should be on the top. If it's not, just search for Live Server. Choose the one that you have already installed, and then it's got these little the settings toggle or whatever cogs. Click on that, go to extension settings, and then just a little ways down it says live server settings custom browser. You can choose which browser you want. So if you're using Safari and you have Chrome installed, you should be able to find it in the list, or if you're using Firefox. Anyway, please select Chrome and then click close settings. Close this live server. You don't need that. And then here's our file. Let's go back to File Browser over on the left. Click on File Extension. And now I want to show you another thing. So see how it says port 5500? This means that it's running a server on your local machine with a port of 5500. It's just a way of how your machine allocates where servers run. So you could have like multiple servers. If you click it, it will shut down that port basically and close the server. So it'll go back to saying go live, and then you can click it again. You won't have to do this. Once it's running, it should run. Every once in a while, it'll get weird and you need to like shut it and restart it. But basically, once you start a coding session, you can say go live, And then just keep that browser window open in your background. I'm going to close this one because there's extra. Just keep it running. Don't close this tab. And then you can switch back and forth with Command Tab. Fun times. Or you can, always jump around with this if you can't remember Command Tab. Okay. Whew. All right. I feel like this video is long enough. So I'm going to call this part 0, and I'm going to go to part 1 now. And we're going to start coding HTML. Thank you.